can't remember if I have shared about this already or not. One of the things I've wanted to do for a very long time is make myself a little portable sewing case, something that holds my needles and my scissors and my thimble and so on. And I've had a plan. We won't talk about how long I've had that plan, but anyway, I'm finally working on it. So I put together some of my blue fabrics that I love the best, just kind of a crazy patch pattern, and I did some embroidery on the seams, and then I embroidered this little label, I guess, and so I've got that on there. So the outside is ready. This is the inside of the case. I'll have this side that I can put thread or whatever, and I can see it clearly. This, of course, will be for my needles and pins. And this side, which is stuck in there, this side will have a zippered section where I can put my little scissors and my thimble and a seam ripper, needle threader, anything that I want to. This will be like my tools and this will be like my thread. That's kind of the plan. We'll see how I end up using it. And then again, I'll have this section that I can put needles and pins. I might put a little section of flannel in here or batting, just to be a kind of a little scrap. You know, when you get little thread ends and stuff, sometimes it's nice to have something to hang on to it while you're working, and then you can grab it and throw it away. So anyway, this is what I'm working on. I have this. This is the base fabric I put interfacing on. It's a fairly heavy interfacing. Don't know whether I need that, don't know whether I want that, but I'm thinking I probably want some stiffness to this. Not like super stiff, but a little bit of body. This just has a fleece on it, fusible fleece. So it has a little bit, but not a lot of structure. So anyway, I'm going to put these right sides together. You can see I've marked with chalk where I want this to fit on there. So I need to put them together and I need to stitch around them. I need to make sure that I put them together the right direction so that I don't end up with this one upside down or something. I did stitch when I made these. I wasn't paying attention to which way the zippers were going. I was just like, oh, put the zipper on there and put the little netting fabric and put the other fabric on there so I have a pocket. And then I realized I had them so that they were, the zippers opened up this way instead of this way. And I did not want to redo it because I was taking a lot of stitches out, but as my sister-in-law pointed out to me, it would drive me crazy, and it really would, having that the wrong direction. So I fixed that, but I want to make sure that I do this the correct direction now. So I'm going to work on that, and then we'll see. So obviously I haven't got this stitched together yet, but I had a couple things that I realized first. I had some temporary stitches that I had done with just the white embroidery thread, and I realized I wanted to get this stitched for real first so that I didn't have to do it through all of the back. I also decided I was going to do stitching around just to keep it all together. And then I realized that I need to stitch down my pocket up here. Otherwise, it's not going to do any good to zip anything in because it'll just fall out. And I don't want to do it afterwards because, again, I'll have it as one piece with this. So I would have a line of stitching straight through that, and I don't want that. So I need to stitch this and this first. And then as I was looking at it with the stitching around the edge to keep that together, I realized I'm not sure I'm a fan of this being right on the edge when that's turned right side out. I kind of wish I had put a piece of this blue fabric across here so that it just kind of made a little window of the mesh instead of all the way down. So I might actually take out stitches enough that I can put a piece there, because I think that will just be more solid. I think it will I think it'll last better. I'm afraid this would just wear, and I don't think it would do well. And my first thought had been, okay, that's just a note to make for when I do another one, because I would like to have several of these. and it's kind of fun to work on as a hand project. But I think that's going to bug me enough that I want to fix this now before I move on. So I'm going to unstitch and stitch that on, get these stitched down, and then I think I'm finally ready to put them together. So time to get my seam ripper out. Fortunately, it's not like a huge area that I'm having to unsew. And I'm glad I thought of this now, because if I had put the pieces together and turned it right side out, I would have noticed at that point probably that it would bug me, but I'm not sure at that point that I would have wanted to undo. I don't know that I would have cared enough to undo it at that point, but I think it would always bug me. I did lengthen my stitch when I was doing this around because I figured I just needed it to hold together, so that at least makes it easier for unstitching when it's larger stitches. Okay, and I would think that should be far enough. I think basically I just want to go right across there. So I need to measure. So I went to find my little ruler so that I could measure and figure out what size fabric I needed for this, but I also found I had a scrap sitting there on my cutting table, and my first thought was, well shoot, that's not long enough. But I think if I did it right up here, because that's going to cover, you know, give me complete coverage up to the corner. I don't necessarily need it, you know, I was kind of planning all the way across here, but it doesn't actually have to be that much. I think that would do it. And so I'm going to use this piece and I'm going to put that together, and then we'll get that covered. That's what I'm going to do. Have this sandwiched in there so that I can stitch that. So now you can put this up like this. I'll have to press that, of course, and then I can just trim off the excess, and then that will be fully encased. It's not going to be perfect, but it's that part, it's good enough, and that will be a good note for next time I do one. So press this, stitch that, and then we'll go on. Okay, so I have my pocket stitched here. So now it's actually a pocket. I got my pocket stitched here. So now it's a nice little mesh pocket. And I got this stitched, just followed my line there. So now all I need to do is trim that. There we go. And now I'm ready to put these right sides together. So this is supposed to be my front. Oh, got a pin in there. And that's supposed to be that way. So if they're going to be right sides together, this needs to be this way. And then I want to line it up as close as possible to this edge, and this edge is what I had decided. So I'm going to get this pinned. I'm glad I've got my walking foot because this is going to be kind of thick, but that'll be good when it comes time to put the snap on, right? So I'm going to get this pinned all the way around. I'm going to leave an opening either this side or this side, probably this side, so that I have something to turn it right side out. And so anyway, I'm going to pin this, get it ready to stitch, then I will stitch it. Okay, I have it pinned and I'm ready to stitch. One other thing I thought I would point out, I don't always remember to do this when I'm doing something that needs to be turned, but I remember this time. So I actually used a red head on my pin here and here to remind myself that's where I want to stop and start. That's my little signal to myself that that's time to stop there and not go past that, not do this area. So that's where I'm going to try to leave open. I'm going to go around here with a 1/4 inch, trim off all the excess, and then turn it right side out. Okay, I'm getting stuck on my zipper. Might have to pull this out here. Hadn't thought about the fact that I have my zippers. To unpin here a little. My zippers are all the way at the top. And so it is catching. I want that in further so that the presser foot doesn't hang up on that zipper. And I'm not sure I can reach the other one. See how nimble I can be if I have to unstitch. I don't want to have to unstitch for this. Okay, there. Got that moved. Let's put another couple pins back in here. Now we should be able to take off again from there. Okay, I have to say, with all the fleece and the layers of fabric and the stitching, that is quite a thick little bundle. Trim off my excess, and then we'll turn it right side out. It's funny that I'm completely cutting off the part that I stitched there, but when I made the little base piece, I wasn't sure exactly where it was going to end up. I just knew I needed it bigger than the foundation. So that just goes in the garbage. I think around these corners I'm going to trim a bit closer to help reduce the bulk a little more. And then we'll see. They're nice rounded corners, so I shouldn't have to notch them. But I might also trim some of this excess fleece especially, because that will make the biggest difference, is having that fleece out of there. Let's see if I can actually turn this now. Whew. That was quite a thing. Okay, I have my little turning stick thing here. Push out the other corners a little better. So glad I did rounded corners instead of trying to do square ones, because that would not have worked, I don't think. Way too bulky for that. Okay, so I'm just going to keep fiddling this with a little more as I get it situated. And then of course this will have to be folded in, and that will have to be folded in, and then we'll stitch that, and then I'll see about getting a snap. But for the moment I'm going to continue shaping this, and then we'll get back to you. I am mostly very happy with it. One of the things that I found is I don't often like following other people's patterns. There's always something about them that I want to change, and I end up modifying them anyway. And often they're not exactly what I'm looking for, so that's where I get the idea to make my own. And I'm too cheap. But I know I can make something myself. I do like the way it looks. I think it looks really pretty. So I'm going to cover the things that I felt went wrong or that I don't like about it. Because one of the problems with doing things yourself is if you don't have a pattern, you get done and then you're like, oh, now I know what I should have done different. So the first one was I planned on doing snaps. I had some cute little blue snaps. Or white one that I was going to use. And I realized when I got it done, I did not leave enough room. I would have had to put it into my applique. And I didn't like how that looked either with the blue or the white. So snaps were out. At least that type of snap was out. So what I did is I have these clear plastic snaps. There's the female end, male end. I don't have very many of them, but they come in a little set. So you have the different little ends. My mother-in-law was an amazing seamstress, and she sewed beautifully, but she did not do buttonholes. So if there's anything that was made by her that has buttons, buttonholes, the buttonholes were made by my sister-in-law. what she did instead, if she was doing her own, is she would use those little plastic snaps, sew a button on top of them and put the snaps below, which is very clever. Anyway, so that's what I did. I'm not as happy with those. I don't think they look quite as good. And since I didn't figure that out till I was done, if I'd done it ahead of time so that I could have stitched them on from underneath, it would have been way easier, because trying to get in here to stitch that on was a real pain in the butt. And I think it would have looked, the other type of snaps just look tidier. This would be fine underneath a button where someone doesn't see it, but for something you see all the time, I'm not real thrilled with that. I do like how my scissors and my thimble and all fit in there, but I have other scissors. I haven't tried this yet. I guess they'll fit. They will fit. Okay, I figured they wouldn't. Well, they fit tightly, but they do fit. So I have a couple of different pairs of embroidery scissors. I'll need to try them because I do want to make several kits up, so I have, I can have one in each project. The felt works great for needles. The one thing is it's a little bit big, so in order to snap, I have to kind of squish it in. So I'm going to trim that down. This side, I'm not happy with myself for taking the shortcut and just using that piece of scrap I had instead of cutting one a little bit bigger, because now I ended up with that mesh right at the end on the corner, which then also made my corners not round nicely. This one has a nice round to it. I like how that one turned out. The other should have turned out the same, but this one I actually caught the edge of my hand stitching in that one. So that kind of pooped that in. And then of course this has the mesh and my thicker seam there, so that pulls that in. So next time I would just make this a window and not try to do that at the end, so that this is, it would be a very small window. I'm not sure if it's worth doing the mesh, but if I did it, I need to make it a little bigger anyway, because I need to have room for a snap. So anyway, I need to trim down the felt, and I don't have pinking shears. I needed pinking shears for something at one point. My grandmother bought me these. They have a scallop. So I'm just going to go scallop these edges. And then I'm going to do the same to this one. I suppose, really, I should try to line that up, shouldn't I? So that they're even. Glad I thought of that now instead of afterwards. Okay, so now I should be able to close my little book, or my little sewing kit. Snaps right up. So I'm very happy with it for the most part. It's functional. I'm going to gladly use it. Put my little scissors in there. Very excited to use it actually. But also, I feel like I need to make another one right away so that I can fix the things that bug me about it. But there it is. Scissors, thimble, needles, thread. Hope you enjoyed watching this. Hope you like my little sewing case. And we'll go on to another one and see if we can get it to come out a little better. Different color, of course, because I want a variety. So I finished my little sewing kit and of course immediately saw the things that I thought I should do better next time, and I decided that I was going to actually start another one really quick while I still remembered what I wanted to do different. And so that's what I have the pieces here for that I'm starting on. I am making the outer cover much simpler this time. I figured if I make it simple, I mean I still want it to be pretty, but if I make it simple, then I haven't spent as much time, so if it's not quite what I want, it doesn't matter as much. So anyway, I have a scrap of this fabric. I think it was really pretty. I like the brown. And so this will be the outside cover, it will look like this when it's closed. I did make this one a little bit larger, both directions. I feel like I needed to make it wider for sure. I don't know if I needed to make it taller, but I thought I'm going to make it taller and see what I like better. I may end up doing something in between the two actually for a final product, but it's not going to hurt to have one a little bit larger. So I do want to change the way I was doing the inside. For the other one, for the first one, let me actually get that real quick. Okay, so for the first one I made a little pocket piece and I stitched it down here with the zipper towards the inside, and then I did the same thing on this side with the mesh. And then of course I have the felt in the center for holding needles and pins. I think what I want to do is make, well, normally I would do this one piece. My plan was to do one piece all the way across, zipper on this side, zipper on this side, and then stitch the felt in the middle, and that would divide the two pockets. So basically just make one giant pocket and then make two pockets out of it. Now, since I'm just using scraps, I have very little of this fabric. In fact, I think I'm going to use every single little bit of it that I have. So my plan is to do this side. I'm going to do zipper over here. Then I'll make a section for over here and stitch them together. So I'm essentially making one piece out of them. And then I'll lay it on here and do that stitching on the top there, or that felt on the top to separate them. But that's my plan. I am having to figure out, again, since I just have I have little bits of this left. This is my biggest piece that is remaining. And I have two small sections and then like 3 or 4 little bitty sections. So I may have to use some brown that I had back here to help make sure it actually works. But I am going to put this together. I'm going to do a piece across here because I don't want my zipper running out into the curve, because I feel like that would be creating the problem I have here where stuff is so thick that it's bulky and the corner doesn't want to round nicely. So this is my next distraction project, I guess, if you want to call it that. This isn't you working on a UFO, but you know, this was an old project that I had thought about for a long time. Hadn't started it, but that I'd really wanted to do, and now I want to do another iteration of it. So it's kind of a UFO, and still cleaning out some scraps, right? Whatever. I'm going to justify it. Okay, so I am back. I have been working on getting this centerpiece done. So you can see this is the outside shell again. I have SF101 on it. I'm not using the fusible fleece. If you combine them, you get fusible. Okay, so I'm not using the fusible fleece like I did on this one. I think it just made it too thick and bulky. So I'm going to try the SF101 on both pieces to see if that will make it firm enough, give it some body without the bulk. So I have done that for all these pieces here, except for, of course, the mesh. And this is the inside, all in one piece, well, pieced together to make one piece. I did have to use some of the brown here. I didn't have anything quite big enough for the butterflies, but I think it will look nice being the other color as well. So now that I have that, I need to trim off the little corners so that they're the same size, and then I will stitch it together and turn it right side out. And then I will add the felt in there for the middle. So that's what I've been working on. Really nice progress. This has been pretty quick to do, despite that I'm having to figure out what I'm doing and what sizes I'm cutting. Some of it I'm remembering to write down. Most of it I haven't, of course. I have little notes, so if I need to recreate it, hopefully I can figure it out. So yeah, that's where we're at. And I'm back, and I finished the other little sewing kit. So now I have both of them. I am happier with the thickness of this. I feel like it has plenty of body with the SF-101 for backing. I still think it's pretty. And let's see. Same sort of thing. So I have the regular pocket, the felt for needles and pins, and the section there for thread or bobbins or whatever. This one I was able to put a snap on since I made it a little bit bigger. I got a snap there. I don't know if I needed to make it any taller, but I don't hate that. It's not much difference in size. You can see just a little bit. Another size comparison. So a little bigger, not a whole lot. I will probably redo another one at some point with the crazy quilting and the embroidery stitches and my little thing here. But I wanted to see if I could get one that works. The only thing I don't really like about this one, I cut my felt a little small, and then I realized I didn't like the straight edges on it. I like the little scallop edges like I had on this one, so that trimmed off a little bit more. So I think my felt should have been a little bit wider, but that's not really something that's going to bug me, I don't think. And also, this is kind of funny because I hadn't thought about this, but of course I have my zipper that goes up on both sides, goes to the top. But on this one it's on the inside, so it seems very natural to take the little scissors and put them in from here. And this one, since I'm right-handed, it seems awkward to do this way. So I don't know whether it would be better. I don't see that it would make any difference going up from the bottom. I just think that's kind of a funny thing, the difference of whether the zipper's in there or out towards the outside. I do want to make more of these at some point, and if I do, I might try doing the same thing. So I make one piece, but put the zippers in closer to that side. I don't know. It's something to think about for another time. But for now, I'm done making little sewing kits, and I have to get back to other things. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my little sewing kits. I enjoyed making them, and I think they're really cute. And you have a good day. Bye!